Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be my February TBR. So before I go ahead and get started talking about the books that I want to read in the month of February, I did want to make a brief little disclaimer. This is not all of the books that I'm planning on reading. I'm probably going to read some more than this, also maybe swap some out. I am very much a mood reader, but I am trying out more structured TBRs this year and see where that gets me. A little 2021 experiment, if you will. New year, new me, kind of sort of deal. You know how that goes. So all I'm saying is don't get too surprised if we reach my February wrap up and not all of these books that I'm going to talk about are in the stack. That's just how it goes sometimes. So first things first, I do want to participate in Blackathon. Jessie from Bow Ties and Books hosts Blackathon, I think for like the past 2 or 3 years now. As I'm recording this, they haven't come out with their TBR video or the prompts for Blackathon. So that is definitely going to be one where I'm going to be adding books that fit the challenges later on in the month, but I do try and read one nonfiction book a month. So for Blackathon, I am going to be finishing Cast: The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. I am actually already about 150 or so pages into this book, but it is a very heavy read. It's a very dense read, so keep that in mind if you do want to pick this up. So this book is talking about the caste systems of Nazi Germany, India, and also America, talking about how we have an invisible caste system that is harder to see than more rigid structures that we think of when we think of a caste system, and how there are 8 different pillars in a caste system society like our own, how we can maybe change and go about that, and then just recognizing inherent biases and inherent problems that evolve in this caste system, and how to not only recognize this caste system but go about dismantling it and challenging your preconceptions in everyday life. This book was published in 2020, so the information in it is very recent and very timely. It does discuss a lot of events that took place from 2016 leading up to the 2016 election, why that turned out how it did, and then just 2016 onwards, which I definitely appreciate. I feel like this time period alone from like 2016 to 2020 especially is something that can't really be overlooked, especially when we're talking about race relations in America. So I'm not excited to read this because let me tell you, this is a very graphic read. Trigger warnings because it does not shy away, as it shouldn't, from talking about depictions of the horrors of the American caste system, American slavery, Jim Crow era South, and all of that. So be warned going into this one. This is definitely not a nonfiction book that you can sit down and binge read in a day. At least it wasn't for me. It's been taking a while to really read the information and absorb it and apply it to my life. This is written very, very well, but it definitely reads as more of a historical text. I was a history minor, so that doesn't bother me. Dense nonfiction like that does not really bother me so much because I am used to it. I will say, if you are looking for some social justice nonfiction for the month of February, I would highly recommend Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. That one is really good as an audiobook, and it's definitely presented in more of a informal tone and more of a conversational tone, especially the audiobook, because Mikki Kendall does narrate her own audiobook. So it feels like you're having a conversation with someone. That might be a little bit more of a jumping off point than immediately diving into this, because this is not only talking about America and things that we're living through at the moment, it is also talking about India and Germany and the ways that kind of those systems all played upon each other. So this is my February nonfiction pick. I do have a short list of books that I would love to try and fit in to Jessie's prompts whenever those come out. I'm really interested in picking up Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. I have read 2 things by P. Djeli Clark this year so far, and I really have been enjoying them. This book, I believe, is following a group of women who are taking down the KKK, but the KKK are not only human monsters, but they're Lovecraftian monsters as well. So I'm very intrigued at that. It was on the short list for the Goodreads Best of Horror 2020, which is why I was interested in picking it up. And then also The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I have heard that this audiobook is absolutely wonderful, so I would like to fit that in prompts willing as well. Now, moving on to a readathon in February that I have a little bit more information about, at least at the time of this filming, is FF February, or Female Female February. And this is actually more of an Instagram readathon, and it's hosted by the pages. I'll leave all information down below, by the way, but it is hosted by the Instagram pages Fairy on the Shelf and At Home in the Clouds, and this is a month-long readathon celebrating sapphic literature of all kinds. There is a bingo board, and I'll just briefly go over all of the prompts for that one. So the challenges are: read a female-female contemporary, historical, and or romance book, read a female-female book from 2020 or 2021 debut author, a female-female book featuring your favorite trope, a female-female audiobook, graphic novel, or multimedia story, a female-female sci-fi or fantasy, a female-female backlist book, a sapphic own voices book, a reread of a sapphic book you loved, or a female-female recommendation from a friend. So that's a month-long readathon that I'm going to be participating in. So I guess this TBR is mostly just talking about the readathons that I want to participate in and not so much the specific books, but one book that I know will fit several challenges for that readathon, and one that I'm just dying to get to in general, is going to be The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. This is the second book in the Bone Season series. This book works for several prompts. Samantha Shannon herself identifies as queer, and the main character is Demi, I believe, and not only is the main character sapphic, but there is lots of representation in this series as a whole. I don't know how much of it is in this book specifically, but obviously sapphic women are still sapphic even if they are not in a relationship. So while I don't know if there's that much romance going on in this book, the character herself and the author herself are both queer identifying, so this would check off several prompts for that readathon. Another book I'd like to pick up for that readathon would be The Bone Charred Daughter by Andrea Stewart, and this is the first book in the Drowning Empire series, and I know there is a sapphic character in this book. I haven't looked too much into it because I didn't want spoilers, but I believe there is like the hintings of a female-female romance in this book, or is hinted on that it will play a part later on in the series. So I'm really interested in reading this one. This was one that I was disappointed that I didn't get to last year, so I want to read it as soon as I can in 2021. This is a high Asian-inspired fantasy that is recommended for people who loved the Poppy War series like I did. So this has to deal with an empire where people can use bone shard magic, sort of like a necromancy sort of deal, I believe. So I'm really intrigued to pick this one up as well. And then we're just going to talk about some books that I would like to get to in the month of February. Not really anything in specific, but another one of my goals is to read one Stephen King book a month. So I think February's pick is going to be Dolores Claiborne. It does follow the titular Dolores Claiborne. I believe her husband is killed. There is some sort of eclipse event that happens and her husband turns up mysteriously dead. So I think it's a little bit of a murder mystery from the outside, kind of trying to figure out maybe if she killed him or if he met with foul play or if he just died. I think, again, I could be totally off base. I'm going into this one pretty much blind, but I think this is the King book that I am going to pick up in February. And then just to give myself a break from all of the series and heavier fiction that I'm delving into this month, I would also love to pick up Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Last year I read both Mexican Gothic and Certain Dark Things, so I wanted to pick this book up this year. This is actually a July 2019 release. I believe that's what the back of this book is telling me for book of the month, but I got it as an add-on in my January box because I have recently discovered that I love Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing. This is a Mayan-inspired fantasy standalone, and I do believe there is a bit of a romance as well, so it's February, so might as well dive into some more romancy things. I don't think that's the main point of this fantasy story, but I do believe there is a romance in there. Reagan from Peruse Project read this in January, I believe. I think I just saw a vlog where she read it and she really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to picking this one up. The last book that I'd like to get to in the month of February so far is one that I feel like suits the vibes of February very, very well, and that is going to be These Violent Lights by Chloe Gong. This is the first book in a duology that is a fantasy-inspired retelling of Romeo and Juliet. So nothing like some good old-fashioned star-crossed lovers to bring us into February, am I right? I'm really excited to pick this one up. I'm not the biggest Shakespeare fan, and I had originally thought this was going to be a standalone, but I am very intrigued to see see where it goes. In terms of a duology, so this takes place in 1926, so 1920s Shanghai, and there's two rival gangs, and the two main characters, I believe Juliet is one of the characters. Juliet, who's a former flapper girl, and the other main character's name is Roma. So this is just a Romeo and Juliet reimagining, and I have heard that it does go in some really cool and interesting places. And this cover is absolutely wonderful. So I have heard that this book is a lot of fun to read, and it's just like the right amount of retelling and fantasy inspired elements. And I do believe there's some sort of like paranormal or monster aspect in this as well. I'm not too sure, but I am excited to pick this book up as well. So there you have it. Those are some of the books that I am hoping to read in the month of February. Of course, I'm sure I'll be adding some more to this list, subtracting some more as my mood reader self just decides to read whatever I'm in the mood for that specific day. But these are just some of the books that I hope to prioritize in the month of February. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, let me know some of the books that you are planning to read this February, subscribe for more content from me, stay safe, stay spooky, and I'll see y'all on the other side. Bye!